6:39 on the line right now is Simon Owen. There's a story in Germany that an Auschwitz paramedic is set to stand trial in Germany coming up in February, and he's 95 years old, as you might expect. Simon, what do we know about this? Did we not know about this guy all these years?
The authorities' radar, but so have lots of people. It's a question of who they can get to court and who they can convince the authorities that this person is fit to stand trial. And this is one of those, increasingly rare cases where they have decided he is. We only know his name as Hubert Z. They don't release the last name under German privacy laws. But he does have that particularly sinister, I thought, title of being a Nazi paramedic at Auschwitz just for 1 month. And he was also stationed at Auschwitz as an SS sergeant for 3 months in 1943 and 1944. He was actually there, the prosecutors say, at the time when Anne Frank and her family were delivered to Auschwitz, the diarist. So it's not necessarily, they do go after these people. They are trying to race against the clock and catch people who are very elderly now. They convicted a 94-year-old man in a big case last year. But it is, they are clearly fighting time, and this is kind of, I think, trying to make up for years, if not decades, when they perhaps could have done a little bit more and didn't. So they're trying to push them through the courts now.
And I do, I have to wonder, and I know this is probably will come out in a very bad way, but first of all, the guy's 95 years old. Secondly, if you're in the midst of that time, I mean, we saw Schindler's List, right? So there were people that stood up and they tried to help the Jews that were facing God knows what. But when you're in this Nazi military back in the 30s and 40s, could you do anything? I mean, was there anything that this guy could have done?
Well, this is what tends to be the crux of the arguments on both sides of the case, and his defense team will say that he wasn't involved in killing directly, and therefore he shouldn't be charged. He's facing, by the way, about 3,600 counts of accessory to murder. Wow. And so his team says, he wasn't actually doing the killing, he wasn't particularly close to it, therefore shouldn't be involved. But what the prosecutors say is, given his awareness, he was aware of the purpose of Auschwitz as an extermination camp. According to the prosecutors, that's their argument for why. And there is precedent in German courts that is enough to be convicted of accessory to murder.
And Simon, one thing I'm not sure that we all understand, but there is zero tolerance for anti-Semites in Germany today.
I mean, it's something that they are still very sensitive about, and there is a lot of protection that comes with it. I mean, it's the same way that, as I say, we don't know the guy's surname technically because they don't release those details because there's all sorts of privacy concerns following the Nazis' reign that continue to this day. So, I mean, they would say anti-Semitism. I don't have precise figures for any figures of crimes at the moment, but certainly, yes, they put it quite high on their list of things they're keen to avoid, for sure.
All right, Simon Owen, Fox News, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
Right, Andrew, you have something on that you want to ask about?
Well, I just the thing that I find interesting.
The guy's 95 years old.
Yeah, and I kind of tossed it around too. But the other thing is he's being prosecuted in Germany. So if you look at that, it's not like the United States captured him.
Oh no.
And we want to prosecute him.
So I'm saying there's zero tolerance there. It is a very sensitive issue, even all these years later. There's zero tolerance.
I'm going to try to draw an analogy, and I know it's not 100%. I mean, the Holocaust, I don't even have to get into how horrible it is. Everybody understands that. But, if we had a U.S. Troop or an interrogator who worked for the U.S. military and was at Guantanamo, right? And in 20 years we say, that was horrible, we never should have done it. The guy's just taking orders from the government that's in charge.
Right, that was my point. It's what could he have done?
Right.
That could have not. I mean, listen, what he could have done would have cost him his own life.
That's what I mean.
And maybe I mean, if you seen the movie Schindler's List? And I mean, it's amazing but that guy was in a position where he could do things, and he risked his own life, but he was in a position where he could make some change, at the very least, defy the Nazis. But in this case, I'm not sure. Is this guy, But at the end of the day, it's going to be up for up to their jury to determine. It's them. It's not us. Andrew,
it would be more understandable. I'm saying if it was us.
Yeah, I guess.
But I'm sorry. Yeah. So,
all right, Andrew, what's your big story? Because I know I've just completely left you sitting there waiting and in the wings.
Oh,
What?
it's quite all right. It's quite all right. So I was sent a video. Sorry. I was sent a video by Mr. Zecca that's actually quite interesting. It's an interview from over 20 years ago, Donald Trump on Oprah talking about foreign policy and the possibility of him running for president. Now, originally, he had said in that interview that he would never run unless he felt that the country got to a point that it was beyond repair, and if he did run, he would win. So it's kind of interesting to watch this video and then apply it to what's going on.
Actually, it's much more interesting to look at Oprah back then. It's really quite a view.
Major U.S. newspapers.
And Donald Trump, by the way, has real hair.
Real hair. Flowing, it's thick.
I'd make our allies, forgetting about the enemies you can't talk to so easily, I'd make our allies pay their fair share. We're a debtor nation. Something's going to happen over the next number of years with this country, because you can't keep going on losing $200 billion, and yet we let Japan come in and dump everything right into our markets and everything. It's not free trade. If you ever go to Japan right now and try to sell something, forget about it, Oprah. Just forget about it. It's almost impossible. They don't have laws against it. They just make it impossible. They come over here, they sell their cars, their VCRs, they knock the hell out of our companies. And, hey, I have tremendous respect for the Japanese people. I mean, you can respect somebody that's beating the hell out of you, but they are beating the hell out of this country. Kuwait, they live like kings. The poorest person in Kuwait, they live like kings. And yet they're not paying. We make it possible for them to sell their oil. Why aren't they paying us 25% of what they're making? It's a joke.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me, and I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not, but I do get tired of seeing the country ripped off.
Why would you not?
I just don't think I really have the
inclination. You wouldn't want to take the pay cut, right? There'd be a pay cut involved.
To do it. I love what I'm.
Huh?
He actually mentions that.
Yeah.
I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
No, it doesn't. But, I just probably wouldn't do it, Oprah. I probably wouldn't, but I do get tired of seeing what's happening with this country. And if it got so bad, I would never want to rule it out totally, because I really am tired of seeing what's happening with this country, how we're really making other people live like kings, and we're not.
What do you think of this year's presidential race, the way it's shaping up?
Well, it's going to be very interesting. I think that probably George Bush has an advantage in terms of the election. I think that probably people would say that he's got like that little edge in terms of the incumbency, et cetera, et cetera. But I think Jesse Jackson's done himself very proud. I think Michael Dukakis has done one hell of a job. And George Bush has done a hell of a job. They all went in there sort of as
taking care of everybody. And he was wrong on at least two there, huh? Dukakis, remember that?
Well,
no, I understand you don't, but I do.
I do too. The country could still be characterized the same way as Steve described it in 1988.
Yeah. Right, because the same thing, the world was coming to an end then, and now it's politics of fear, and that's what we do. And I know that the new enemy is ISIS, and it's an enemy that we can't seem to pin down, and all of that. But is it time for Donald Trump? Okay, I know Jim is a big Donald Trump supporter.
Yes.
So. How does he explain 2 Corinthians? Is he and it's not the 2 Corinthians thing. It's the trying to be something that he's not in front of a group of people who are going to call you out on it. If you are not an evangelical, the last thing you want to do in front of a group of evangelicals is try to pretend you're an evangelical.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to. Why, of all people, to make that mistake? I would not expect Donald Trump to make that mistake.
That's like trying to explain the theory of relativity to a group of physics students because you're giving a speech at a physics class.
You're going to say something that's going to make them say, whoa, wait a minute. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
I think Jim's response would be, I want him to lead the country, not my Bible study.
All right.
And I understand the point you're making. I think you're absolutely right.
Right. My point would be, who is it? Who is this Donald Trump? Is he really what he says he is? Mm-hmm. Or is he just going to be the chameleon that becomes whatever he needs to be in front of the audience he's in front of? Interesting stuff,
He'll
folks.
be forgiven.
All right, Andrew Dominio. What's the next? There's another Trump. I got to tell you, the Trump people are out.
So are the snowplows.
A lot of support. A lot of New York State support for Donald Trump. And every day I'm getting another video or another story, another blog of some sort that explains why Trump is the answer, and that we all should vote Donald Trump. in the upcoming Republican primary. Andrew Dominion, what is this one? This is Louis Farrakhan.
Yeah, so apparently, I haven't watched the whole thing, but apparently this Islamic leader, and to some extent, agrees with Donald Trump's temporary ban on refugees.
Okay. So this is Louis Farrakhan.
Yeah.
Nation of Islam.
Yep.
He's been out of the news for a while, right?
Yes.
He's been out of the mainstream.
But
news
we
for a
do
while.
understand that Louis Farrakhan does not represent Muslims. We do understand that, right? We do understand the difference between Nation of Islam and the Muslim faith. They are two completely different faiths, if you call the Nation of Islam that. The Nation of Islam are the guys in New York when you go down into Times Square, and they're preaching hatred of white men. The Nation of Islam, that's the group that when you're walking by and they're like, the white man destroyed us. The white man is holding us down. It's time we stand up against the white man. And there I am with my wife walking with a bag from Macy's like, oh, my God, what are we going to do? I am so white standing here. What in the hell are we going to do? They're all dressed in white garb and the whole – that's the it's a militant group.
It is not right.
It is not the Muslim faith. So the fact that Louis Farrakhan is – I don't even need to play the video. I can play it. I'll play a little video. But it does not – it's not meaning what everybody thinks. They're seeing Nation of Islam. They're saying here is an Islamic leader who's saying it's true, that Trump is right, that we should ban Muslims from entering the country. That's really not what is going on here, folks. Here's the audio. This was Alex Jones, right?
Who's nuts.
He debuted that.
Our government has gone into nations with money from our Congress to stimulate the dissatisfied and then arm them against a government that is their government. That's what America did in Libya. That's what they're doing in Syria. And the blowback now is they have created a refugee crisis that is destabilizing the countries in Europe. So when Mr. Trump said we can't allow these Muslims, refugees, into America. Now, a lot of people were upset with him.
All right, so he goes on, and he's okay with it. But it is not. This is not a Muslim leader agreeing with Donald Trump. It's the Nation of Islam. Correct. And do you have a little something on the Nation of Islam? What that? Can you look? What that,
I can check that out.
But
yeah.
it is a group that really is. I would say it's kind of an anti-white group. And let me tell you something. These are people I've interviewed them before. I interviewed them in New York City, and it is a group of people that you don't want to get into a shouting match with. These are tough people to deal with.
Whenever we would interview him in New York City, he would always be accompanied by an entourage of no fewer than 50 people. And they were all wearing the same thing. And it was quite a production when they came into the studios. We didn't have enough room in the green room to fit all the people. But here's a recent tweet from him. This was from January 17th. Black and indigenous suffering, America must reap what she has sown.
This is a black-white issue. Louis Farrakhan's battle is the white oppression over. So I understand it's one thing if it stands on its own. Louis Farrakhan is supporting Donald Trump's decision to keep Muslims out of the country. But I think the leap that people are making is they think that this is a Muslim leader and it's not. So
yeah. And
completely different religion, folks.
Website IslamReligion.com says Louis Farrakhan, current leader of the Nation of Islam, finally allowed to enter the UK. Therefore, it's clear that despite their name and calling themselves Muslims, Nation of Islam beliefs about God and prophethood are glaringly incompatible with Islam.
Yeah, it's a different deal.
Yes.
And as I said, I've been there, and Christine, it seems like you've been there as well. This is a group of people you don't want to mess with. The old Nation of Islam. All right, hold tight. We'll come back. We do have some delays and closings. We'll have that full list to have you for you. I'm not sure what I just said in the last 10 seconds, but what is meaning to be, we'll have the full list, the complete list coming up for you in the news, which is coming up next on WIBX. Hold on. You see the Tony Stewart video from yesterday? I have some. Did you see any of it?
No.
It's from over the weekend. He got into another. He was at another racing event, and he got into it with a fan, and the fan apparently was heckling him. So Tony Stewart, who's how old now? I mean, he's how
44.
44. He gets up into the stands, walks up to the guy, and begins confronting him, and grabs a hold of the guy, and the guy's yelling at him, and he's yelling at the guy. The security guard comes in between them, and then Tony Stewart, the security guard pushed the other guy down, and then Tony Stewart kept going at the guy in his ear, and it ended without any real fist thrown or anything like that. But, you got to be thinking, it was just a year ago, wasn't it, that he's dealing right now with this case with the family up here after that death at the racetrack up here. He's dealing with that civil lawsuit. Mm-hmm. One would think running up into the stands and picking a fight with a heckler might not be the way to go.
I don't know what the guy said to him, but I don't know if that it justifies it. I mean, you have to understand that, like, a lot of people are going to hate you when you're a superstar like that. A lot of people love you, but...
Yeah, and they're going to throw things out probably in reference to what happened up here last year. I don't know. I don't know what was said, but to go into the stands is probably not good, will not serve as a display of your good character.
Correct.
I'm afraid.
That was well said.
Dr. Gary Lacefield is an expert on business negotiations, professional communication. Here's the question. Show me the money. Are you going to get a raise this year, and how do you go about it? Can you actually ask for it? If you do, how do you get it? Gary is an expert. Good morning. Let's make this really easy for everybody. They all deserve a raise.
Yes, sir. We all do.
I think maybe anyway. So what do you do? I mean, how do you pose the question? You just walk in and say, "Hey, we need to talk about more money."
Well, no, sir. I mean, we all feel like we're probably underpaid and underappreciated. But basically, what happens is you see somebody else that comes on board. They're making more money than you are. Matter of fact, you may even be training them, and they're making more money than you are.
Right.
The worst thing you can do is go in and say, "Hey, I'm training this person. I've already shown my worth, and you're paying them more than I am." That's absolutely the wrong thing to do. What you need to do is, first of all, and this is what I teach my students, is keep a journal, keep a diary, keep a journal of the things, a record of the things that you do that are maybe above and beyond your pay grade. So, for example, let's say your boss leaves early every other Friday and leaves you in charge. Document that, not the fact that they're leaving you, not the fact that they're leaving, but the fact that they're leaving you in charge. And when it comes time to negotiate your raise, then you've got a list of things that you can say, "Hey, here's what I have done above and beyond, and so therefore I have justified a raise."
So you're really saying you must. It's really important to build a case. Is really what you're saying, I think.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Because in this day and time, you need to be able to document your worth. You need to be able to prove up that this is who I am. This is the value that I add to the company. You should never compare yourself to someone else.
Yeah.
Because you're not that person. You should only compare yourself to what value you bring to the company. And if you don't rock the boat, and this is what many employers they rely on, is that, well, I'll just wait my annual time and get my whatever that 2 or 3 or 4% is. However, when you have made a case, when you've justified that now you can come in and say, "Look, this is what I've done, and so this is not what you're entitled to. This is what you've earned."
Don't you think you have to also make sure that your house is clean? And by that I mean, maybe that does mean literally keeping your office space clean or whatever. But beyond that, I mean, if they come back and are like, "Yeah, about that raise, we did a little search in your email, and we found, 857 private emails that were sent during your time here, and about 3,000 Facebook posts. I mean, don't you have to make sure you're not setting yourself up to be spanked here?
Well, absolutely. I mean, first of all, you should never ask for a raise unless you have deserved it, unless you have earned it.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you're spending more time on social media than you are on your job, then you're
you don't deserve it. Yeah. And what about today? We're seeing a lot of this with, like in New York State, we've just seen a raise in minimum wage. It's going up to $15, and it's going to, it's going up incrementally over the course of the next 5 or 6 years. But we're seeing that, and in some cases, it's taking an employee who just started, especially in the fast food industry, and then moving him up to the point where, or her up to the point where they're equal maybe with their manager. So now the manager's saying, whoa, if this person gets a raise based on the new law, shouldn't I get a raise? How do you handle those situations?
Well, it's one of those situations where, it's just like, consider it a union. Typically when union members earn a benefit, those benefits are also typically passed along to management.
Yeah.
I can never remember a time when that wasn't the situation.
Right. Very interesting stuff. But obviously you want to present your case. Don't compare yourself to other people, and just present a case that shows your value and why it's worth the company's in the company's benefit to pay you a little more money.
Absolutely, because it's cheaper for the company in the long run. It's cheaper for the company to retain you than it is to bring somebody else in, because you're a known quantity.
Yeah, good stuff, Dr. Gary Lacefield. We appreciate it. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir.
Andrew is diligently writing right now. What are your attributes on the piece of paper you're writing up here? I know you're taking notes on this, Andrew.
Well,
clearly, it's time.
I think my time spent on social media is actually a positive.
It is. Right. Think about our job.
It's one of my job descriptions.
Of course we spent a lot of time. I used to explain that if there was any, indecent websites that might be on the history, that's research, honey. Yeah. This is research for the program. Everything is
People
research.
Need to know this stuff.
The problem for us, though, is we do a lot of crazy research. Like Christine, I remember we were talking last year when there was this whole thing about the NSA looking at the emails, and everybody's saying, "Whoa! Did you just? We searched Al Qaeda, we've searched ISIS, we've searched all of these things, and you kind of listen. It's the job. It's what we do. It's all in the name of research here." 718. Christine has done her research over the last 10 minutes and delivers this new and extensive report from the newsroom. Good morning, Christy Bolito.
Good morning. Officials trying to figure out whether or not attacks on fiber optic cables in California are connected to a possible plot against Super Bowl 50. The Flint, Michigan water crisis center stage today. And Donald Trump expected to make a major announcement this evening in Iowa.
He's saying that there's going to be a special guest. Mm-hmm. So could it
to
mean
give an endorsement?
There's an endorsement. Maybe somebody's going to endorse him. I believe it's God. He's showing up. Yeah.
God's going to come down and. That's right.
Lake effect snow warning, snow showers, wind, high 21. Tonight, 13. Tomorrow, cloudy with a high of 26. Currently, we're at 8 degrees above, and there are some school delays and cancellations here this morning. In some cases, I guess they all come back to the weather. Here's the list that we have here right now. I know that Rome and public and parochial schools are on a what delay today?
It's a 2-hour delay with no morning pre-K. Canastota Central, 2-hour delay, no morning pre-K. Cazenovia Central, 2-hour delay. Edmiston, a 1-hour delay. Morrisville, Eaton, a 1-hour delay. Oneida City Schools, 2-hour delay, no morning pre-K or BOCES. Stockbridge Valley, a 2-hour delay. Bill, you mentioned Rome, 2-hour delay, no morning pre-K. And Westmoreland Central Schools closed because of a water main break.
All right, Assemblyman Mark Butler and Rocky and Barb Fiato of the Waterfront Grill present the 13th Annual United Way Tailgate Party this Sunday from 1 till 5 at Waterfront Grill in Herkimer. All proceeds benefit the United Way of the Valley in Greater Utica. There's an all-you-can-eat buffet put on by Rocky and Barb at the Waterfront, plus prizes. All afternoon admission is $20 at the door, or you can buy them in advance at 733-4691. It's football, food, prizes, and more. Sunday, the NFL Championship Sunday tailgate party from 1 till 5, Waterfront Grill on the canal across from the Herkimer Thruway Interchange, 800 Mohawk Street in Herkimer. The roads have been really pretty well taken care of, haven't they? And it's this tri-plow strategy they're doing on 49 and on 5S, the 4-lane highways. On the line right now is Jim Piccola. You won't need the 3 guys to do it anymore, though, because you have this new weapon in the war on snow. Dun, dun, dun.
Weapon in the war on
So
winter.
dramatic.
Yeah. So what is this? This is a crazy looking device here.
Yeah, it's a tow plow. It hooks on the back of one of our standard plows and has a wing, and also it salts too. So guys really got a chance to use it yesterday during that snow, and it worked pretty well.
Listen, and I'm not criticizing, but I've talked about this all morning long. Yesterday morning on my way in, I traveled 5S from the Valley to Utica, and I came upon the trifecta of plows. So plow 1, 2, and 3 all going together, and you can't get by them. Not that I probably should, right? Anyway, but it's about 25 miles an hour all the way from Frankfort to Utica. I hit that. Okay, it is what it is. On the way home, Jim, I hit it again. Talk about my timing. I followed that thing all the way. Then I come back to New Hartford in the afternoon yesterday, hit it again. It's just my timing. But listen, the roads have been clean, and that's really what we want.
Yeah, Christine let me know when you were leaving, and I made sure you had your personal escort back and forth.
See?
Perfect. So this thing, actually, though, this is. Am I correct in saying this is less expensive than a regular plow truck?
Yeah, like what you were behind yesterday, what we call is echelon.
Right.
You have your plow all the way to the left, your center plow, and then your one on the right. And that's traditionally what we would do. It's very similar with the tow plow. It's just that you have the one operator in the plow truck with the tow, and then usually we send another truck on the side to do the other shoulder.
Got it.
So in essence, instead of having 3 truck drivers out there or 3 plows, you only have the 2.
All right, which certainly doesn't mean that the extra one that isn't being used doesn't get used. It allows that person to go somewhere and take care of some of the lesser traveled roads.
Absolutely. A lot of times, main lines are our first priority, and then we come back and we do the ramps. So that definitely could, let somebody be able to do those right away.
Now, I haven't seen one of these trucks. I've not even seen one of these on the thruway. Are these? Will we not see one on the thruway, or is it just? What's the deal on that?
Well, they're designed for freeways. Last year, they had a test pilot out in Syracuse on 81.
Okay,
and that's how this all came to be. They had great success with it, and again, the governor had his New York response last summer with $50 million in these tow plows, which we have 62 throughout the state. We have 3 here in Region 2, and that's how they came to be. And mostly you're going to see them on 5S, 49, 12, and possibly 840 and 80.
All right.
So wherever Bill travels,
Wherever I travel, that's right.
him.
We're going to have it. Listen, though, I mean, in all honesty, if we're not complaining that we've got to follow the plow, we're complaining that the plow wasn't there,
right, and
that the roads are slick. So, I mean, in this winter job, you can't win, Jim. No matter what, you just can't win. It seems.
Yeah, and if I could just say that these guys have a very challenging job, especially when the weather's bad out there.
Yeah.
And just give them some time, and please do not try to pass the plows. They're much bigger than your car, and like I said, the road's much safer in back of the plows than in front. The plow salted, and we'll get you to where you want to go.
Jim, does you mentioned Route 12? Does having those barriers up, obviously they're temporary barriers because the road is under construction. Does having those barriers up and they kind of keep the snow from going way off onto the shoulder, does that create a problem for you?
A little bit. Our guys are, our maintenance folks, like I said, when we designed this, detour, which we have right now, we worked with our maintenance folks on that, and, they're keeping on top of it. They will send extra trucks through if we need to. We have our snow blower that comes through, or we could run up loaders through there if the snow starts to build up. But we are keeping an eye on it.
And one last question for you while we have you on here. I noticed that nighttime work is underway on that arterial project, and now with the snow, does that change it? Do these guys continue working out in the blustery weather? Obviously, yesterday was a national holiday, but what's the game plan?
Yeah, we were scheduled to do some light work last night. The crews did work during the day, but they were off the roads for their safety and the safety of the traveling public. We were scheduled to shut down that ramp from 12 South to downtown, but because of the snow, again, it's the safety of the traveling public and also the workers in there. We canceled that. We're going to assess it tonight, and hopefully we'll be out there tonight. If not, we'll look for Wednesday.
All right, Jim Piccola, DOT, we appreciate your time. Thanks.
My pleasure. Thank you, guys.
One thing I got to tell you that Jim does, and I never remember anyone else being in his position, but he's done a great job of getting the word out to the public. Do you ever remember, prior to Jim Piccola, there being such communication? I don't seem to ever remember that.
I remember Alice was with the DOT, and she would. It was different going back then, where she wouldn't call in so much, but she would send us bulletins about projects. But I think Jim does an outstanding job.
I don't know Alice, but I know Jim Piccola. Yeah, Andrew.
I want to let you know that I do know Canastota Central Schools, which was on a 2-hour delay, now closed.
Okay,
thank you.
Here's Christine with an update right now at 8:19. Good morning, Christine Bellino.
Good morning. Wall Street back into action today after the markets were closed Monday in observance of the Martin Luther King holiday. It was a bad day for stocks on Friday. Major crises in the global economy will get a lot of attention this week as world leaders, business heavyweights, celebrities, and journalists gather in Switzerland. And locally, Bruce Leonard, scheduled to appear in court today. He'll decide whether or not to accept a plea offer from the DA.
That lake effect snow warning is still in effect till 7 p.m. tonight. Snow showers today, wind high 21, tonight 13, tomorrow cloudy, and a high of 26. All right, so we have a fitness health expert coming on next. You know what is the big thing in your grocery store right now? It is the new thin deals. You know what I'm talking about. Like, they have Oreos, but they're thin. So you're eating, when you eat one of them, you're eating maybe, I don't know, a quarter of a full-size Oreo or something like that.
So that means people just eat more.
Well, the plan would be that you would eat less. Like, I loved, Weight Watchers used to have a bread, and it would be very thinly sliced. So when you had a slice of bread or a slice of toast, you really were eating a half a slice as opposed to a full slice because of the way that but it tricks you a little bit. So what's the story on this stuff? Is it good? Is it the way to go? Warren Honeycutt is up next. Hold tight, coming right back in 2 minutes on WIBX. 8:23. So what about all these thin things you can get now, right? It's supposed to be making you eat less, but do you really just eat more, as Christine says? Warren Honeycutt is a fitness expert, and he's the author of the book, Get Lean for Life, 7 Keys to Lasting Weight Loss. And good morning, Warren. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. How
so
are you
what do
doing?
you think? I saw him in my cupboard. Some people get to see things in the grocery store. I somehow see these things in my cupboard, and I try to avoid them. But I think it's the thin Oreos. They're very, very thin. I try to avoid them.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah. What do you think?
Honestly, all of the thin things that you see in the snack aisles and all over the grocery store floors now, there's nothing wrong with marketing. I think it's a great thing. I'm a very strong supporter of a free enterprise. But the people that put those things out aren't necessarily concerned or really care that much about your waistline.
Right.
And so, if it sells and, if you look at something that goes thin, oh, well, that's got to be better.
Right.
No, not necessarily. Just like we said, you said the Oreos. And again, nothing wrong with a snack here and there. But if you eat 8 thin Oreos and it's twice the calories of the 5 regular ones, well, doing the math, it just doesn't work as it relates to dropping that weight.
Sometimes you
one
might
thing's
be
for sure, the body will count everything accurately.
Well, that's true, and I got to tell you, if thin is the deal, think about it. There's nothing more thin that you can put into your system than a potato chip. And, yeah, and if we just would stop at 1, we would be okay.
And the thing is, too, and a good point, not just thin, but labels, fat-free, healthy, natural. All of those have different definitions allowed by our government than what actually is good for you as it relates to good nutrition. And
so what will happen on Oreos, for instance, the government requires, I believe, that we do this thing called suggested serving size. So you'll go to the Oreo package, and let's just say it says full-size Oreos. It says 4. So for a sitting, you could have 4 full-size Oreos. But let's say the thin Oreos are, I don't know, let's just say half the size. Do they change the suggested serving size to 8? Because if that's the case, you're not saving anything.
Yeah, that's the key. And again, the easiest person to mislead in the entire world is a person you look at in the mirror every morning.
Yeah.
Because that person looking back at you wants to believe what we're telling them. So if it looks and reads thin, doggone, got to be thin, right?
Right. I've been having these, like for breakfast, I've been having these, because I grabbed something, one of these little bars in the morning, and I'm trying to see what it shows. It's a Belvita. Are you familiar with them?
That one I'm not. I don't know what that one is.
It's made by Nabisco, and by the way, just so you know, Warren, it gives me 4 hours of steady energy.
Okay. Well, that's good. And if, in fact, it does, it has very little sugar in it because that sugar high only lasts for 30, 40 minutes.
Well, I'm going to look at it because I've been eating this thing. I try to nibble on it all morning long just so I'm eating something. All right, ingredients. Let's get to the... serving size, 1 package. So you get 4 of these little biscuits. And it says amount per serving calories, 230.
Okay.
Fat calories, 70. It's hard to get to this. Total fat, 8 grams of fat. That might not be
70
good.
calories. A gram of fat is 9 calories, so that'd be right. Yes.
Now trans fat is 0 grams. That's good, right?
That is good.
All right. Polyunsaturated fats is 2 grams.
Okay, that's low.
Monosat fat is 5 grams.
Okay.
And 0 grams of cholesterols.
Okay.
Plus, you get little specks of blueberries. Very delicious.
Okay, good. Let me ask this: how about the sugar grams? Any?
Okay, hold on. I'm going to get to the
Sugar's important. Yeah.
Well, they've probably given it some sort of a weird name, haven't they? So cholesterol.
Probably. There's 57 names that manufacturers use now for sugar.
Okay, here's sugars here. Now listen here. Sodium is 210 milligrams.
Okay.
Fiber, 3 grams. Sugars. Let's say they're saying sugars is 13 grams. That's a lot, right?
That is a lot, yes.
That's a lot of sugar. I got to stop eating this crap, and I like it so much.
And now, reading that label, it tells me that what they're claiming as it relates to the 4 hours of energy, the fiber will slow down the digestion process just a bit.
Okay.
And that's the reason fruit, even though it's got fructose in it, which is sugar, it's not the same as refined sugar because you have the fiber and the pulp and so on in the fruit, and the body digests it longer and differently. And bottom line, it doesn't turn to fat nearly as quick.
So let me ask you this, and this is an argument I got into with my wife last night. So last night I sat down, instead of having like ice cream or chips or something, I got those little small carrots. And I did probably ate too many of them, maybe ate the whole bag, but still. Now, I was arguing with my wife, and I said those carrots are just as healthy if I were to eat them with a glass of water versus a double vodka on the rocks. What are your thoughts on that? Am I right?
The carrots are a great food, and you really, whether you ate the whole bag or not, it's not going to bother you as it relates to a waistline.
Right.
And what happens, too, is if you drink the vodka with it, at least the carrots will slow down the process of those empty calories turn into fat.
Got it. So what I should tell her is it actually makes the carrots more healthy by drinking it with vodka.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll tell her that.
I wish you luck in getting that argument won.
Yeah, probably not going to. All right, your book is Get Lean for Life, 7 Ways, and here's the deal, 7 keys to lasting weight loss. This is the problem, right? We lose our weight, and then we put it all back on plus 5 pounds.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that is a merry-go-round that I'd seen for, gracious, 37, 38 years in the fitness business.
Yeah.
And prompted the book and looked at, hey, what do people do differently that lose that weight and keep it off?
Manasseh less.
So, that's my dynamic of teaching changed when those principles started to get locked in as I looked at success stories and non-success stories. So it's
to be a good book, good book to get, because you obviously want to do something that's going to keep the weight off. Manasseh last question.
So Warren, just quickly, you mentioned sugar and the refined sugar. If I'm in the store, I noticed the last time I was there, I had to get a bag of sugar. It was natural cane sugar. Is that good or bad? Is that the refined stuff or no?
It is refined, yes.
Okay.
And if I can take 1 second, 10 seconds.
Yeah.
If you drop sugar, folks, you will lose 3 to 4, maybe 5 pounds in the first week. And if you only do one thing, drop sugar.
All right.
So we've been so focused on fat, haven't we?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And there's a good fat, there's a bad fat. It's just so confusing. Bottom line is, if you stop eating so much, you'll probably lose weight.
Will lose weight, no matter what you eat, if you eat less calories than you burn.
Right. All right. So it's the sugar. Stay clear of the sugar. That's the key.
That's the key.
All right. Good stuff. Warren Honeycutt. The book is Get Lean for Life, 7 Keys to Lasting Weight Loss. Thanks so much for taking the time with us this morning.
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful day.
Christine with news coming up next on WIBX.